Before I say anything, let me just tell you this up front. If you've ever thought about going on the dark web, don't. I'm serious. Whatever curiosity you have, it's not worth what I'm going through right now. You think you'll just browse, maybe find some weird stuff to laugh about, maybe even buy something illegal if you're feeling extra reckless, but you won't be ready for the things that stick with you, things that don't just stay on your screen. For me, it all started like most dumb ideas do, late at night, bored out of my mind and one too many beers in. I was scrolling through Reddit, reading conspiracy threads, when someone mentioned a site on the dark web where you could find real paranormal experts. People who could curse your enemies, summon spirits, or even sell their services to help you contact entities you shouldn't be messing with. It sounded like complete crap, but I couldn't stop myself from digging deeper. After a couple of hours and a lot of sketchy tutorials, I found myself on the dark web. The website wasn't flashy, just a black background with blood-red text and some grainy photos of rituals. Most of it looked like the typical edgy nonsense you'd expect: candles, pentagrams, weird symbols. But then I found the blog. It was called The Red Veil, and it claimed to connect people to authentic practitioners of forbidden arts. The posts were, I don't know how to describe them, they felt wrong, stories about people summoning demons to grant their wishes, trading parts of their souls for wealth, revenge, or love. The way they were written, they didn't feel like fiction. I wasn't planning on actually doing anything, I swear I wasn't. But then I saw this one post titled, "Feel the Devil's Power Within You, a Full-Body Ritual Experience." It was written by someone calling themselves Azariel, and they claimed to be a high-level Satanist who could channel infernal energy directly into your body. The description was wild. It said you'd feel unimaginable power coursing through you, but it came with a warning. This ritual is not for the weak. It will change you forever. You will carry his mark. I laughed at it at first, but something about it stuck in my head. Maybe it was the way Azariel wrote about the process, how vivid the details were. They claimed they could perform the ritual remotely, that they only needed your full name, date of birth, and a specific phrase you had to say out loud during the session. It sounded fake as hell, but I don't know. I was drunk, bored, and stupid. That's the only way I can explain what I did next. I messaged them. The reply came almost instantly, which should have been my first red flag. They asked for $500 in Bitcoin, which I somehow convinced myself wasn't too much for a joke. After I sent the payment, Azariel responded with the instructions. It was simple. I had to sit in a quiet, dark room at exactly midnight, light a candle, and recite the phrase they provided. I opened myself to the Lord of Shadows, let him claim my flesh as his own. I told myself it was just a prank, that nothing would happen. But I still felt this weird anxiety all day leading up to it. By the time midnight rolled around, my stomach was in knots. I sat in my room, the single candle flickering in front of me, and for the first time I hesitated. I almost didn't say the words, but then I laughed at how ridiculous I was being. What was the worst that could happen? I said the phrase. At first, nothing happened. The room was silent except for the faint hum of my fridge in the next room. I waited, feeling both relieved and a little disappointed. But then the candle flame flickered violently, like someone had just blown on it, even though the air was still. The temperature in the room dropped. It wasn't subtle. It was like I'd just stepped into a freezer. My breath came out in puffs and my skin broke out in goosebumps. Then the pain started. It was a sharp, burning sensation in my chest, like someone was branding me from the inside. I gasped, clutching at my shirt, but there was nothing there, no mark, no wound, just pain. It spread quickly down my arms, into my stomach, my legs. It felt like my blood was boiling, like my veins were filled with acid. I collapsed to the floor, writhing, unable to scream because my throat felt like it was closing up. I don't know how long it lasted. Minutes? Hours? It felt like forever. When it finally stopped, I was drenched in sweat, shaking uncontrollably. My muscles felt weak, but there was this buzzing under my skin like an electric current. And then I heard it. A voice. Not out loud, but in my head. It was deep, guttural, and impossibly cold. It said one word. Mine. I scrambled to my feet, trying to convince myself I was just hallucinating from the pain, but when I looked in the mirror, I saw something that made my stomach drop. My eyes. They weren't normal anymore. The whites were bloodshot, and my irises had darkened, almost black. I leaned closer, my hands shaking, and that's when I noticed the veins around my eyes. They were darker than they should have been, like black tendrils crawling under my skin. I tried to wash my face, hoping it was just some trick of the light, but the reflection didn't change. And then the voice came again, louder this time. Mine. That's when I felt it, this crushing pressure on my chest, like something was trying to crawl out from inside me. I staggered back, gasping for air, and that's when I saw it, the shadow. It was on the wall directly behind me, but there was no one else in the room. And it wasn't shaped like me. It was taller, with long, spindly arms that ended in claws. Its head was twisted, with what looked like horns protruding from the sides. It moved when I didn't. I bolted out of the room, slamming the door behind me, but the pain, the buzzing, the voice, it all followed me. It hasn't stopped since. It's been 3 days now and I haven't slept. Every time I close my eyes, I see the shadow. It's closer every time, even when I'm awake. My skin has started peeling in places, revealing something darker underneath, almost like scales. And the voice, it's not just in my head anymore. I hear it everywhere. I think I've made a terrible mistake. I don't know how to stop this. I don't even know if I can. I've been trying to stay calm, but I can't. I can't even tell if I'm awake or asleep anymore. It's all blending together like my mind is slipping away piece by piece. I don't know what's happening to me, but it's getting worse. Way worse. After I wrote the first part of this, I tried to tell myself that maybe I was just sick or having some kind of mental breakdown. But that's not what this is. There's something inside me. I don't know how to describe it. It's not just a feeling, it's physical. It moves. It started yesterday. I was sitting on my couch trying to zone out in front of the TV, hoping it would distract me from the constant buzzing under my skin. I hadn't eaten anything in over a day because every time I tried, my stomach twisted like I was being stabbed from the inside. But then it hit me, this sharp, sudden pain in my lower back. It was so bad I fell off the couch. When I pulled my shirt up to check, I saw something moving under my skin. It wasn't like muscle spasms or anything normal. It was slow, deliberate, like something was crawling. I swear I could feel it squirming, coiling itself around my spine. I grabbed my phone and tried to record it, but when I looked at the video later, there was nothing there, no movement, just my pale, sweaty back. But I felt it. I still feel it. Last night, I finally broke down and tried to call someone for help. My first instinct was to go to a hospital, but how do you explain this? Hi, I think I let Satan possess me because I hired a random guy on the dark web. They'd lock me up before I even finished the sentence. So I called my friend Jake. He's the kind of guy who's always into weird occult stuff, crystals, tarot cards, that kind of thing. I figured if anyone would believe me, it'd be him. He picked up on the second ring. I tried to play it cool at first, but as soon as I started explaining, I lost it. I was rambling, talking way too fast, and crying like a damn child. I expected him to laugh or tell me I was being stupid, but he got real quiet. "Dude, what the hell did you do?" he finally said. I told him everything, every stupid decision that led me to this point. When I mentioned Azariel, Jake cursed under his breath. "You're an idiot. You have no idea what kind of doors you've opened." He told me he'd heard of Azariel before, that he'd seen the name pop up on forums about real black magic practitioners. According to Jake, this wasn't just some random scammer. Azariel was legit, and people on those forums were terrified of them. Jake said they didn't just channel energy or do fake rituals, they made deals. Actual deals with entities Jake said I shouldn't even speak the names of. I asked him if there was a way to undo it, and he hesitated. That's when I heard the voice again. He cannot save you. No one can. I froze. It was coming from the phone this time, clear as day, but Jake didn't seem to hear it. He kept talking, saying something about cleansing rituals and holy water, but I couldn't focus. The voice started laughing, this deep, rumbling sound that made my teeth ache. I hung up. I don't know why, but I couldn't listen to Jake anymore. It felt pointless, like nothing he said would matter. The voice was right. No one can save me. This morning, I woke up with scratches all over my arms. They weren't there when I went to bed, and they weren't the kind of marks you get from scratching yourself in your sleep. These were deep, jagged, and uneven, like someone had carved into me with broken glass. Some of them had started to scab over, but others were fresh, still oozing blood. And then there's the mirror. I can't even look at it anymore. My reflection doesn't feel like me. It's almost like it's mocking me, moving just slightly out of sync, smiling when I'm not. This morning, when I glanced at it by accident, I swear my reflection mouthed the word welcome. But the worst part? The shadow. It's not just on the walls anymore. I see it in the corners of my vision, even in broad daylight. It's taller now, its shape clearer. I can make out the claws, the horns, and something else. Eyes. Glowing red eyes that stare at me with this burning intensity, like they're peeling back my skin and looking directly into my soul. I tried to leave the house earlier. I thought maybe if I just got out, went somewhere public, it would stop. But as soon as I stepped outside, my chest tightened, and I felt this overwhelming pressure, like the air around me was heavier. My vision blurred, and my legs gave out. I barely made it back inside before I collapsed. And the voice, it's constant now, whispering, laughing, sometimes screaming so loud in my head that I feel like my skull is going to split open. It tells me things I don't want to hear. Things about myself, about my past, stuff I've tried to bury. It knows everything. Every time I close my eyes, I see flashes of something. Places I've never been, faces I don't recognize. There's fire, screaming, and a figure standing in the middle of it all, waiting for me. And then there's the sound. It's like wet meat being torn apart over and over. I think it's trying to show me where I'm going. I don't know how much longer I can take this. My body feels like it's falling apart. My skin is pale and clammy, my veins darker than ever. Every muscle aches, and the thing inside me won't stop moving. I can't eat. I can't sleep. I can't escape. Jake texted me earlier, asking if I was okay. I wanted to reply, to tell him to come over or to send help, but the words wouldn't come. My fingers cramped up, and I dropped the phone. When I picked it up again, there was a new message on the screen, one I didn't type. He belongs to me now. I threw the phone across the room, but it doesn't matter. I can feel it watching me. I don't know if it's the shadow, the voice, or whatever's inside me, but it's always there. And I think it's getting stronger. I've reached a point where I'm not sure if I'm writing this for anyone else or just to convince myself I'm still alive. Every time I sit down to type, my hands shake so bad that it's hard to keep my fingers on the keys. My vision blurs sometimes, and I get this stabbing pain behind my eyes that makes me want to claw them out. But I need to get this out. I have to. Last night, something new happened. Something worse. It started around 2 a.m. I hadn't slept. Not that I've been able to sleep much lately anyway. I was lying on the floor of my living room, staring at the ceiling, because the bed felt like a death trap. The buzzing under my skin was worse than ever, like whatever was inside me had started moving faster, more aggressively. Every now and then, I'd see the shadow out of the corner of my eye, just standing there, waiting. I tried to distract myself by playing music on my phone. I put on some random lo-fi playlist, hoping it would calm me down. It didn't. After about 10 minutes, the music cut out, replaced by static. My phone screen flickered, and then the voice came through the speaker. "Do you feel it yet? Do you feel me?" I froze. I wanted to throw the phone, to smash it into a million pieces, but I couldn't move. My hands wouldn't respond. The voice continued, this time louder. "You invited me. You opened the door. Now I will take what is mine." The lights in the room flickered, and for a split second I saw it. The shadow wasn't just in the corner anymore. It was standing over me, its clawed hand inches from my face. The heat radiating from it was unbearable, like I was sitting in front of a furnace. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. And then it touched me. I don't even know if touched is the right word. It felt like my entire body was being dragged underwater, like I was suffocating while flames licked at my skin. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. All I could feel was pain, pure, unrelenting pain. My vision went black, and for a moment I thought I was dead. When I came to, I was in a different part of my apartment. I don't remember getting there, but I was in the bathroom, sitting on the floor with my back against the tub. The mirror above the sink was shattered, shards of glass scattered around me. My hands were bleeding, and there was something written on the wall, in what I can only hope was my own blood. "The ritual is complete." I stared at it, my heart pounding so hard I thought it would explode. I didn't write it. I know I didn't. But my hands, they were covered in blood. My fingers felt stiff, like they'd been gripping something tight for too long. And then I heard it again, the wet, tearing sound. It was coming from the other side of the bathroom door. I sat there, frozen, listening as it got louder. It wasn't just tearing, it was squelching, like something heavy and wet dragging itself across the floor. My mind raced, trying to figure out what to do. I didn't have any weapons, nothing to defend myself with. The only thing I could do was wait. The sound stopped right outside the door. I held my breath, my heart hammering in my chest. For a moment, everything was silent. And then the door handle turned. Slowly, deliberately. I wanted to scream, but I covered my mouth with both hands, biting down on my fingers to keep quiet. The door didn't open, but the handle kept turning back and forth, like whatever was on the other side was testing it, waiting for me to make a move. When it finally stopped, I let out a shaky breath, but then I heard it whispering. "Let me in, let me in, let me in." I don't remember what happened next. I must have blacked out again, because the next thing I knew, it was morning. The bathroom door was wide open, but there was no one there. The only sign that anything had happened was the blood on the wall and the mirror shards scattered across the floor. I spent most of the day sitting on my couch, staring at nothing. I didn't even try to clean up the bathroom. What's the point? This thing isn't going to stop. It's only getting worse. Around noon, I got another text on my phone. It wasn't from Jake this time. It was from an unknown number. The message was simple. "He is here." I dropped the phone and backed away like it was going to explode. A few minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Another text. This one had an attachment. Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was a photo of me sitting on my couch, but it wasn't just me. The shadow was there, standing behind me, its clawed hand resting on my shoulder. I don't know who sent it. and I don't want to know. Jake came over a few hours later, after I finally worked up the courage to call him again. When he walked in, the first thing he did was gag. "Jesus, man," he said, covering his nose. "It smells like something died in here." The thing is, I can't smell anything. Not anymore. I don't know if it's because I'm too far gone or if the thing inside me has started shutting down parts of my body. Jake tried to burn sage and chant some kind of cleansing spell, but it didn't work. If anything, it made things worse. The lights flickered and the shadow appeared again, this time right in front of us. Jake froze, his eyes wide, and I swear I saw tears running down his face. "You can't help him," the voice said, loud enough that it seemed to shake the walls. And then Jake ran. He didn't say a word, didn't even look back. He just bolted out the door and didn't come back. I'm alone again. And now, every time I close my eyes, I see something new. It's not just fire anymore, it's faces twisted in agony, screaming silently as flames consume them. And one of those faces, it's mine. I think I know where this is heading. I don't think I can stop it. I don't know how much time I have left. My body feels like it's falling apart, and my mind isn't far behind. Every second I feel like I'm slipping further into something I can't escape. I don't even feel like myself anymore. My thoughts aren't entirely my own, and when I speak, my voice sometimes sounds wrong, deeper, almost inhuman. I can't tell where I end and it begins. After Jake ran out, I decided to try something I hadn't thought of before. Contact Azariel. They started this. Maybe they could stop it. I don't know why I didn't think of it sooner. Maybe I was too scared. Or maybe the thing inside me didn't want me to. But I finally forced myself to log back onto that dark website. My hands were trembling so badly that it took me twice as long as it should have. But I found their page and messaged them. I kept it short. "I need help. Stop whatever this is." They replied within minutes. "There is no stopping it. The ritual has been completed." I felt a wave of panic and slammed my fists on the desk, but I managed to type back, "There has to be a way." I didn't know this would happen. I didn't agree to this. Their next message made my blood run cold. "You didn't need to agree. You invited him, and he accepted. Payment will be taken in full." I stared at the screen, my heart pounding. Payment? What the hell did that mean? I was already losing my mind, my body. What more could they take? Before I could reply, another message popped up. "You wanted to feel his power. Now you will, but power demands sacrifice." I didn't even realize I was crying until I felt the tears running down my face. I typed back one last desperate message. "What do you mean? What sacrifice?" Azariel didn't respond. Instead, the screen flickered, and for a split second I saw something, a face. It wasn't human. It was pale, gaunt, with hollow eyes that glowed faintly red and a mouth full of jagged teeth. I screamed and threw myself back from the desk, but when I looked again, the screen was blank. No messages, no face, just the dark website, as if nothing had happened. That's when I felt it again, the movement under my skin. It wasn't just crawling this time, it was pushing. Something was trying to break through. I doubled over, clutching my stomach, and screamed as the pain tore through me. My skin bulged unnaturally like something was writhing underneath, and I swear I could feel claws scratching against my insides. I don't know how long I stayed like that, but when it finally stopped, I noticed something else. The smell. It was overwhelming, like sulfur and rotting flesh. I gagged and stumbled to the bathroom, hoping to splash water on my face, but when I looked in the mirror, I froze. It wasn't my face anymore. I mean, it was, but it wasn't. My skin was paler, almost grey, and the veins under it were black, twisting like roots. My eyes were completely bloodshot, and my irises were no longer dark. They were glowing faintly red. And my teeth, God, my teeth. They were sharper, jagged, like they'd been filed down into points. I wanted to scream, to smash the mirror, but I couldn't move. My reflection was staring back at me, but it wasn't copying my movements. It grinned, baring those horrible teeth, and I swear I heard it whisper, "Almost ready." I stumbled out of the bathroom, gasping for air. The walls of my apartment felt like they were closing in, and the shadow was everywhere now. It wasn't just in the corners or behind me, it was all around me, moving, shifting, wrapping itself around me like a living thing. I felt its claws on my shoulders, its breath on my neck, and I knew I couldn't stay there any longer. I ran. I didn't know where I was going, but I couldn't stay in that apartment another second. The air outside was freezing, but I didn't care. I just kept running, my bare feet slapping against the pavement until I couldn't run anymore. I collapsed in an alley, my chest heaving, and that's when I heard it. "You cannot run from me." The voice wasn't in my head this time. It was coming from behind me. I turned slowly and saw it. The shadow wasn't a shadow anymore. It had form now. It was towering, its twisted body covered in something that looked like charred flesh. Its claws were long and sharp, and its face, it was the same face I'd seen on the screen. Those hollow, glowing eyes stared down at me, and its mouth twisted into a grotesque grin. It didn't move, but I could feel its presence pressing down on me, suffocating me. I wanted to run, to scream, but I couldn't. My body wouldn't listen. And then it spoke again. "You invited me? You are mine." I don't know how, but I managed to choke out, "What do you want from me?" Its grin widened. "Everything." Before I could react, it reached out and touched my forehead with one of its claws. The pain was instant and unbearable, like my skull was being split open. I screamed and fell to the ground, clutching my head, but the pain didn't stop. I saw flashes of fire, of faces screaming in agony, of a place that looked like the inside of a furnace. And in the center of it all was the creature, waiting for me. When the pain finally stopped, I was lying on the ground, trembling. The creature was gone, but its words echoed in my head. "Everything." I don't know what's going to happen next, but I can feel it. Whatever it's doing to me, whatever I've become, it's not done yet. And I think the worst is still to come. I don't know how I'm even writing this. My hands are shaking so badly, I can barely hit the right keys, and every breath feels like I'm inhaling smoke. Whatever this thing is doing to me, it's almost finished. I can feel it. My body isn't mine anymore, it's his. My mind is slipping. I'm not sure how much longer I'll be me, but I need to finish this while I still can. If you're reading this, I'm begging you, don't make the same mistake I did. Last night, if it even was night, I felt the final shift. I was sitting in the corner of some dingy motel room I ran to after the alley, my knees pulled to my chest, staring at the peeling wallpaper. I haven't been able to sleep in days. Every time I close my eyes, I see the same vision, fire, screams, and that thing's face, grinning at me with those jagged teeth. But this time, I didn't have to close my eyes. The fire came to me. It started small, just a flicker of heat in the room, like someone had turned the radiator on full blast. Then the walls began to glow, the air thickening with the smell of sulfur and charred meat. I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding as the glow grew brighter and the heat more intense. And then it happened. The walls began to burn. Flames erupted from nowhere, licking up the wallpaper and consuming everything around me. But it wasn't normal fire. It was black, oily, and alive, crawling like a predator. I tried to run, but the door wouldn't budge. It was like the whole room had been swallowed into a void. The The flames circled me, closing in, and then I saw him again. The shadow. No, him. He stepped through the fire, his body as twisted and grotesque as ever, but this time he wasn't alone. Behind him I saw shapes, others, moving in the darkness. Their faces were impossible to make out, but their presence was suffocating. He spoke, his voice shaking the ground beneath me. "You have served your purpose. The exchange is complete." "What exchange?" I screamed. My throat was raw, my voice cracking under the weight of my terror. "I didn't agree to this. I didn't ask for this." The thing tilted its head, almost mockingly. "You opened the door. You said the words. You welcomed me. That is all the agreement I require." I fell to my knees, tears streaming down my face. "Please," I begged, "take it back. Take it all back. I'll do anything." It crouched down in front of me, its glowing red eyes burning into mine. For a moment, there was silence. Then it said, "There is only one way to break the bond." I looked up at it, desperate. "What? What do I have to do?" Its grin widened, those jagged teeth glinting in the firelight. "You must pass the burden, find another, offer them, and then you will be free." The words hit me like a punch to the gut. Pass the burden, offer someone else? I shook my head violently. "Number, I can't, I won't." It laughed, the sound echoing in my skull like shattering glass. "Then you will remain, you will suffer, and when the time comes, you will join me, body and soul." The flames roared higher, and the room began to spin. I felt like I was falling, spiraling down into darkness, and when I opened my eyes, I was back in the motel room. The fire was gone, but the smell of sulfur lingered. My body felt different, heavier, colder. I looked down at my arms and screamed. My skin wasn't skin anymore. It was darker, almost black, with strange symbols etched into it like scars. The veins beneath it pulsed, glowing faintly red, and my hands. They weren't mine. The fingers were longer, the nails sharp and claw-like. I could feel the change spreading, consuming me inch by inch. That's when I realized what it meant. This wasn't just possession, this was transformation. I wasn't being haunted, I was becoming him. I left the motel in a daze, wandering the streets like a ghost. People stared at me, their faces twisted in fear and disgust. I heard whispers, saw people cross the street to avoid me. I didn't blame them. I could feel the darkness radiating from me, the shadow clinging to my every move, and then I saw Jake. He was standing outside a coffee shop, talking to someone. I don't know why I went to him. Maybe I thought he could still save me, or maybe I just wanted to see a familiar face one last time. But as I approached, the thing inside me stirred. I could feel its hunger, its desire, and I knew what it wanted. It wanted me to pass the burden. Jake turned and saw me, his face going pale. "Jesus, man," he said, stepping back. "What the hell happened to you?" I opened my mouth to speak, to explain, but the voice came out instead. Offer him, and you will be free." Jake froze, his eyes wide. What was that? Who said that?" I clutched my head, trying to fight it, but the thing was too strong. It was in control now, and I could feel its power surging through me, taking over. My hands moved on their own, reaching for Jake, and he stumbled back, shouting my name. I stopped myself at the last second, pulling my hands away and falling to the ground. "Run!" I gasped. "Get away from me!" Jake hesitated, but when he saw the look in my eyes, when he saw what I'd become, he ran. I watched him go, tears streaming down my face, knowing I'd lost my last chance at salvation. Now I'm here, alone, writing this. My body is almost fully transformed, the symbols glowing brighter with every passing minute. The shadow isn't behind me anymore, it is me. And the voice, it's not separate anymore. It's my voice now, I can feel it coming. The final moment. The moment when I'm no longer myself, when I become something else entirely. And when that happens, I don't know what I'll do. I don't know who I'll hurt. I don't know if I'll be able to stop myself. If you're reading this, please, don't let curiosity destroy you the way it destroyed me. Stay away from the dark web. Stay away from the things you don't understand. And whatever you do, don't open the door. Because once you do, it won't just take your soul. It will take everything. I can hear it laughing now, louder than ever. It's almost time. I have to go.